Well, we had some joy and a little bit of well, the news we got out of Oklahoma wasn't what we wanted to hear. Some guys struggled to make the final 64 at the United States Amateur, but it's so tough to get there. These events that they play in. And Jim, I don't know how many were in your field when you attempted to USAM qualify. There are 100 people
Around there, yeah.
and they're taking 2 or 3 people from each site, and there's certainly multiple sites. They're taking 2 or 3 or 4 from every site, and there are 300 competitors. They're trying to get to the final 64 over stroke play, and all 4 of our guys didn't get there, but we're awfully proud of them for finishing in the top 2 or 3 of all these people who entered the United States Amateur at their regionals or local sites. So that's a terrific achievement, and I don't know if I can verify this, but I don't think there's ever been 4 Nittany Lions from a particular team in the United States Amateurs. So that talks a little bit about what we perceive to be the on-paper strength of this year's team, with a bunch of fellows that are at home that had close calls, getting either just barely missing getting down there, or had close calls in the past to get to the event. We got some depth with the squad, which I think Jeff or Jimmy will talk about a little bit when he gets a chance, being a 4-year guy here. So those guys are all in the transport mode coming back, and we got qualifiers coming up to see who ends up playing for us in our first event out at Wolf Run. That's an event we took a year off from, and 2 years ago Jimmy played in it, and we walked away from a very strong field with the first place trophy, and it was a lot of fun. We had to rush to the airport that day, didn't we, Jimmy?
Yeah.
So we kind of swiped the trophies and hit the road real quick, but we are familiar with that site, and we got a little bit different team, but we have a more experienced team, I think, than what we had back then. We had Robert playing for us at the time, but we've got a good group coming in, and be they upperclassmen or they be a couple of our new players. One of our new players was at the U.S. Amateur, Matt Porter. He played extremely well, and ends up down in the middle of Oklahoma, playing with juniors most of his life, and all of a sudden there he's played well enough to be playing with the best amateurs in the country. So it was a little sticker shock for him, I'm sure. But he's coming in, and we've got a young man from Florida who was a top 40 in the country, and he's from Miami, Florida, of all places. So we did check out with him where Pennsylvania was. I made sure he knew a little bit about Pennsylvania, and he assures me that he can handle what we have to offer here when it gets a little chillier. So we're excited about Ernie Marin joining us, and we've got a number of other players that are very strong. So on paper, going into the year, it's looking pretty good.
So you're not going to be cracking the whip that guys miss their first few days of class?
Yeah, we've had to make the adjustment. They're missing 3 or 4 days of class. We've had to make our adjustment with the team. We were going to qualify today, Friday, but these guys are going to be a little bit exhausted from that trip down there. Traveling to foreign lands. That actually was part of the difficulty down there, is when you go south. That's a U.S. Open site down there, Southern Hills, and they grew the 4-inch Bermuda rough. And if you've never played out of real strong Bermuda, it's not an easy thing to adjust to. So if you were used to playing out of big Bermuda like that, you'd have a little bit better chance. So that's a pretty legit reason for struggling. Apparently, the other thing that happened down there that can happen in golf is they get one practice round on each golf course, and wouldn't you know it, the very next day when they go to play it, the wind was absolute reverse. So if you didn't have a lot of repeats on Southern Hills, that would have been a tough challenge. So yeah, they're going to have to catch up with their classes, though. That's going to be going to give them a little bit of leniency there to kind of get their feet back on the ground, and because you can't go to your first tournament with people that don't feel real stable about what's going on back here at home. They've got to be sound mind and feel good about those things. And I know, Jimmy, you could probably talk a little bit about that, being a student athlete and a golfer.
It's always tough when you're traveling all the time. You get behind in class. Some teachers are lenient, some teachers aren't. So, there's just got to be a good balance between getting all your stuff ready before you leave and going to the tournament and feeling confident. Being able to put your priority on golf rather than your school. So, these guys coming back, it'll be a little bit of an adjustment. First week's not too bad. You're just getting accustomed to what's going on in some of your classes. So, I'm sure they'll be okay, and I'm sure we'll get off to a good start.
I know you mentioned obviously the loss of Robert. He was a real strong captain, a strong player. That's obviously a negative, but can you just say how excited you are with bringing back so many guys that are so experienced, just as he was?
Yeah, I am. Jim has really become a much more mature college player, and I'm going to look to Jim for leadership, being a senior. And I saw a strong evolution of that happen even last year. But Kevin's coming back. He's played from day one here at Penn State. Yeah, sure. I'm certain that he's looking a little bit past college, but I've heard things come out of his thoughts here recently that he's real Penn State proud, and he's really looking forward to representing Penn State this year, and that's music to my ears, and that's music that should be music to the ears of the players that are younger than him, because they'll catch it.
I know you definitely have more seniors now than you did in the past, and how is that going to help some of the younger players that you have such solid leadership and experience through the top?
Yeah, if you move into the next class, you've got TJ could be in his final year. He redshirted a year, so he's another person I think you're referring to. He came within a shot down there of making the match play and won at Pinehurst last year, and he's just had a really steady run of tournaments here in the late summer, so he's playing extremely well right now. But again, you look to your players that not only have experiences but learn from experiences, and TJ falls directly into that category, and he's gonna really lead by example and know about the tough challenges that are ahead of us, and he knows that what's written on paper about the potential of this team doesn't matter much until we do the work. So that type of leadership is going to be extremely valuable. We're gonna probably have some younger guys that are chirping a little bit about this and that, and that doesn't matter much until you do the work.
This is for Jim. Obviously, you were in the position. You were a freshman once, and now so many years later, at the top of the totem pole. What have you learned throughout the course of just being here, and what do you think you can give to these younger players coming up right now?
Well, first of all, it feels like I just came here yesterday, so this is 4 years later. It's went fast. There's been a lot of things I've learned, just not even with golf, just life in general, just being able to take care of yourself, whereas I come from a home where I was kind of coddled, and my mom pretty much did everything, and my dad, so it was a little bit of a life adjustment when I got here, because I had to do everything on my own. But from a golf standpoint, junior golf, I just found you kind of could pick where you want to go, what tournaments. If you're not playing well, you can just say, I'm not going to go to the tournament, which I did when I was a junior. But when I got here, I realized that it's more consistency over the long run than anything. So as far as a golf standpoint, you got to just keep working. You can't get down on yourself. You just got to really work hard and just understand that you're going to reap the benefits. By leading by example, seeing that if the seniors are working hard, then the other guys are going to work hard, because if they don't, they're not going to crack the lineup. So there's a lot of things I could tell a freshman. We had a meeting yesterday. I was just talking about picking the classes you take. Register on time, go to class, which they don't understand right now, but it becomes tough some points when you're practicing, and the early wake up. So there's a lot of things that I could talk to them about, but yeah, as far as golf goes, it's over the long run, not the short run. So I know I've talked to some of the freshmen and have gotten their standpoint on their expectations. And they're really good players. This is some of the best players we've had probably come in the most recent years. So they got high expectations, but at the same time, I told them, take your time. It's a big learning experience. I was kind of thrown to the wolves when I was a freshman. I had no idea what I was in for. So
I thought he needed it, so I did it.
I mean, so I told them what I thought, and they understand what's going on, and if they play well, they'll play. So.
Coach, new facility. You excited about it?
Wow, that's a long time ago. Everybody wants their facility first, and we've waited a long time. Tim promised it a long time ago that we would get to you someday. All of you out there who don't have anything, you'll get something someday. And this process, I think, started really seriously kicked in around 2000. I think it was summer 2006, and now we're in 2009. And it's been a learning experience for me to go through the planning of this very intricate facility. It's going to be gorgeous. I think there's going to be people that are going to be. There's going to be some envy there for sure. It's a smaller building than some of the ones you see, but it's going to be it's a very well thought out building, and the location of it is outstanding. It sits right in the heart of our entire facility, so to be able to be in there and pop out to either golf course or to either one of our significant facilities, our long game or short game facilities, it's simple, and it's such a short distance from campus. I don't know if it's rivaled anywhere, and it's going to be a house beautiful kind of a place. It's really going to be great.
Your facilities have gotten better.
Oh my, yeah, they certainly have. The length on the golf course, and I think our superintendent's doing a terrific job of giving us a lot of consistency out there. We got a lot of help this year from Mother Nature with rain, but he has really made a difference. And just some of the sweat that the coaching staff has put into it, and the players sometimes. Our practice facilities, which we try to take care of ourselves, they're top notch. They're really, really strong. So we don't have a designer golf course per se, but it's a heck of a challenge in the Big Ten. It was prepared in a moderate way with fair hole locations, and you can see from the statistical results of that tournament that it's no pushover. So,
Right, Jim?
It was pretty hard.
yeah.
Now, how much does having really top-of-the-line practice facilities translate to how much the team is going to improve early in the season and have long-term stability throughout the season?
Well, I grew up on a small, unirrigated 9-hole golf course that barely got water to the tees and the greens, and somehow I managed to get to the top of the food chain as a player. You just find a way, okay? Not maybe to the top of the food chain, but I became pretty good. And I've always maintained that facilities themselves do not do it. It's the players. They've got to get out there and understand the facility, and they've got to be insightful about leading their own practice. They need to be sponges and listen to those people around them, like coaches, that can help guide their practices, and and put in the time. As Ben Hogan says, your answers are truly in the dirt. If you want to comment on that, Jim.
I've heard that a few times throughout my career. From compared to what I came into my freshman year with the facilities to what they are now, it's just night and day how much better they are. I can still remember we went out, if we were working on our short games, we'd go out to a hole on, the blue course and just kind of, with no guys, just kind of chip around hoping we got better. Now with the facilities that we have, the driving range, there's just a lot more variety that we have, and we're more prepared for a lot of the tournaments and the shots that are going to be required. So I think it's awesome.
You want to know anything about the schedule? How bad we're going to beat people? Anything like that? Or get beat?
reluctant to go to, but really going to have to be amped up to go?
Yeah, I think we got pretty charged up to go down to Macon, Georgia last year and play against the SEC on their grass, just like the U.S. Amateurs on their grass. And we did a great job. I hope we're amped up again to go down there and do that, because it's going to take that kind of effort. But I'd say we'd be pretty excited about that tournament, Jim.
Absolutely.
So, but a lot of these events, you'll see that they're return visits, and that's no accident. You know, if you have some site familiarity, you have a little bit better chance. So why would I schedule with no familiarity? That wouldn't be very smart, I don't think. So, you might throw in a couple glam tournaments, maybe a little different here or there, but you got to be smart. The way we're qualifying to nationals compared to 3 years ago, it's very different, and you got to be heads up on this. You don't just come back to the Mid-Atlantic and requalify for the national tournament through your region. We used to be able to go to California and play the Meadows Club and enjoy San Francisco and that whole cultural experience. Wow, and finish 10th out of 15 and forget about it and go back to the Mid-Atlantic and qualify. Well, that's not the case anymore. You got to be really careful about your chance of winning a contest.
And you said qualifying for your team is going to be this week sometime. When those guys get back.
Next couple weeks, yeah.
Okay. What is the process exactly that you're using to use to figure out who's going to be your top guys coming in the first tournament?
Well, we look at what they did all summer. That's one of the things that we do. We look at the history that each player brings, and of course all these other things we've alluded to today about their evolution as players. So everything matters, but what we'll do is we'll open up a couple spots, and over 6 rounds we'll have a couple spots open. So if you finish in the top 2 or 3, I haven't picked that yet, so I won't divulge that yet, but say you're a freshman, you come in and you finish 2nd, you're going to Indiana. If you finish 1st or 2nd, you're going. So it's open, and then it starts to close down a little bit, as Jim can vouch for. You got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
But you're going to get you're going to get a pro tournament and a half to prove yourself and see what college has to offer and how ready you are and how well you've trained over the summer. So,
Jim, how competitive are these qualifiers? How serious do you and the rest of the players really get about these to get yourself slotted to play in the first matchup here?
Well, as he said, it's the first, I don't know, we play like 6 to 8 rounds, I think, for qualifying. It's really competitive. We treat it just as a tournament. I mean, it's obviously a lot longer than a tournament, but being here, being my 4th year, it's a big deal, like to set yourself up for the rest of the year and getting an opportunity to play. So you'd be amazed at how many shot difference you are between like the 4th and the 8th guy after 6 or 7 rounds. It's a lot more than I would actually guess, but it's a big deal. We all take it very, very seriously, and the upperclassmen know that this is their shot to prove themselves. Because I know Coach personally, he likes to take most of the same guys to every tournament, and there's probably 2 or 3 guys on our team that are going to play probably every tournament, at least one for sure. So it's a big deal, and I've talked to the freshmen about it, and they understand that you got to come out and play the first couple weeks to prove yourself, and if not, then it's gonna be a long year, I guess.
yeah, and that's how you start, and then you're looking at how are people doing in tournaments. You can't make it a totally unsafe environment. You play bad, I'm going to take you out. But then again, that's kind of the nature of the beast. Coach Paterno, I think, said one time, and I thought it was a great comment, you got to allow people an opportunity to take a risk, or they're just frozen out there on the field. They're not going to play the game. It's going to be tough to win. So I've got to allow some freedom there. But the reality of it is if you don't get the job done, then you're back on the pines. All right.